Hey, Canucks fans, and Happy New Year. I'm so thrilled to resume these Zoom chats. And it's with someone who I've never even met until now, but I admire so greatly. And it's easily the story of the year on January 2nd or January 3rd by the time you are watching this. So the story resonates with me for so many reasons, which I'll get to as we talk. And everyone, it's a story that's sweeping not just the hockey world, but the continent and the world overall. So I don't think I'm over exaggerating either. So enough about me. Let's get to my special guest. Thank you, Nadia Popovici, for joining me today and telling and sharing your story. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out. I'm always happy to help out local YouTube channels.
Awesome. And you are wearing the proper jersey today. So thank you. Good
Oh
job.
yes, yeah. It's a Kessler jersey. We won't tell anyone, but yes, this is my old Canucks jersey.
That's awesome. And I know we'll get into this. I know you've lived up here. You're a fan of both teams, but of course, every
Yes.
time we see you, it's wearing the beautiful Seattle Kraken gear. So
Right.
thank you for donning the Orca for us today, Nadia.
Of course, of course.
So before we get into everything that happened, there's so much to get into. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, maybe your age and where you are in your life right now and what you're looking
Yeah.
forward to in the next little bit?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Nadia. I am 22 years old. I am currently based in Tacoma, Washington, which is just a little bit under Seattle,
Yes.
Washington. And right now I'm in a very strange couple of months where I'm waiting to decide on which med school I'm going to go to. And I'm so lucky to be in that position, first of all. But yeah, I'm in a transition phase in my life, and I'll be starting med school in the fall at some point in 2020.
Wow, that's pretty. And when do you have to choose by?
Yeah, so you have to narrow it down to three schools by March, and then by April you have to decide on one school. So I have a couple more months left, and it's a lot of pressure.
Well, that's really exciting. That's really, really exciting. And then med school, what type of medicine or what type of studying do you want to do when you go there?
Yeah, so I feel like no one really knows until they're in it, but I'm very interested in primary care. I think that I really thrive in one-on-one interactions with patients, and I love that, very intimate, doctor-patient relationship, and I hopefully I can have a lot more experiences just like the one I had with Red, except on a professional scale. So I'm probably likely primary care, but which specialty, I'm not exactly sure.
Wow, that's one of the very first things why your story resonates with me so much. I talked to you before I pressed the record button that I work in ministry, also a lot of one-on-one relational work. So when you're talking about personal care, even professionally, it sounds very, very obviously life-giving, literally and figuratively. So thank you in advance for all you're going to do and all that you've done already. It's pretty amazing stuff, Nadia.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for saying that.
No, it's so true. So a bit about your family background as well.
Yeah. So my mom is a Korean immigrant, and my father is a Romanian immigrant.
Mm.
He was a refugee in Canada, which is why I am a Canadian. I'm a Canadian citizen as well as American. And my parents actually met after a Canucks game when my mom road tripped down with her friends for a Canucks game. She's the biggest Canucks fan. So yeah, she was in Vancouver, and her and my birth father met. And we were living in Vancouver after I was born, and then of course we transitioned to America, and obviously my life started here. But
Mm.
that's kind of how I got started and why I'm a hockey fan. There's pictures and memories I have as a baby, when one of the Canucks at a game, we got a puck, and I'm just a baby in in the stand. And it's just such a coincidence that this happened in the first place, but that this happened with my two favorite teams. I mean, I'm so astonished. Really, it blows my mind. It's really a accumulation of my life.
Well, so your mom finds love through the Vancouver Canucks, and
Yeah,
and here we are 22 years later. That's pretty amazing, or even longer than that. That's amazing. And then
yeah.
how long did you live in Vancouver then, Nadia? For how long?
Yeah, it was only a couple of years.
Okay.
I don't even remember living in Canada, but
Yeah.
when I obviously was in college and I was back in Seattle, it's only a 2 hour drive away, so
Yeah.
I would road trip up there sometimes with my friends, and yeah, beautiful. I actually, before COVID began, I wanted to, live there,
Mm.
and I was thinking about moving back, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I want to visit again so badly. And now I feel like I will be very welcomed back into the country. And
Oh,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
beautiful.
Well, after you get, your doctorate or whatever, once you can practice up here if you want. Well, I'm sure a lot of people would love to host you here.
Yeah, I think there's a way that I can practice in Canada. It's definitely it's more difficult to get into Canadian medical schools. And I was considering applying to Canadian medical schools, but I mean, the
Um,
candidates over there, I mean, the students are so intelligent,
yeah.
so intelligent.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'm a Richmond boy. I live in Steveston, so I'm born and
Oh
raised
yeah.
in, yeah, born in Vancouver, raised in Richmond. So you're welcome anytime, I'm sure. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
So okay, so you're basically deciding between med schools. You're a hockey fan, and then take us back to, if you don't mind, take us back to that fateful day on October 23rd, and don't feel like you have to rush through your story or anything. Don't You can leave every detail. Don't leave any detail unturned. Just whatever you want to share. I know. Let's prelude this by saying I know a lot of people have read your story or maybe heard it or seen it, but I don't think anyone can get enough of it. So I would love to hear it from your words, and not written, typed out. I've seen some wonderful articles. The one that Ryan and Thomas did for The Athletic in particular was very, very impressive. But I want to hear it from your words, your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm so lucky. My stepdad is a season ticket holder, and he invited me for the inaugural game. And I mean, the way that it worked out with my work schedule is so lucky, because I've had to unfortunately miss a lot of games because of work, and just the fact that it was on randomly on a day that I had off,
Uh-huh.
and it was just very much by chance. The morning of, since my mom and I are both Canucks and Kraken fans, we were sitting in her room and deciding, should we wear our Canucks jersey or should we wear our Kraken jerseys? Eventually we came to the conclusion it's their first game. We had to support the Kraken, and of course we're Seattleites now.
Of
So,
course. And Red
yeah.
still listen to you despite what your choice of apparel. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so eventually I wore the Kraken merchandise, and we went there. And this is also a decision that could have changed everything, but my stepdad said, "Oh, you should sit in the inside portion of the seating, not instead of the aisle row." And so I sat on the inside, and the game began. It was such high energy. It was so fun. Oh my gosh, it's so funny because after leaving that game, I said, that was the best day of my life. And my mom just brought that up to me after all of this happened. And she said, now it's been replaced by the same team of the best day in your life. So it's just been a whirlwind. So I sat on the inside, right behind the bench. And we're so lucky to be sitting right behind the plexiglass. And the staff members were there, the players were there. I took a couple of pictures with some Canucks players that are, going all over the internet. And, Red, who, is the assistant equipment manager, he was actually stationed on the other side of the bench. So he
Right.
wasn't even in front of me for the whole
On
game.
your right, right? Further
On my
down.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so there was only a couple of moments where he would walk over, hand someone something, throw some gloves or a towel or whatever. During one of those moments, he walked over, and Red has mentioned that he couldn't believe that I saw this. And thinking back, I can't believe it was such a rare and kind of a split second moment that, I mean, it feels like fate, because when he reached over, the lapel of his jacket pulled down just a little bit, and I saw his mole, and he was standing right in front of me. And so immediately it caught my eye, And I leaned up forward to get a closer look. And I mean, we're like this close through the glass. And so I got to see that his mole had an irregular border. It was raised. I mean, it was discolored. It was both brown and red. It was fairly large. And so immediately I was concerned, particularly because obviously going into medical school, that requires a lot of volunteer work. And I'm so happy to do so. I'm so lucky to do so. And I've volunteered at a lot of hospitals, but in one, I was actually in the oncology ward for several months. And so I was, I encountered a lot of different types of cancer, but, you wouldn't think that we would have much skin cancer here, as, it's always overcast, but there's plenty, there's a lot actually. And people really, disregard using sunscreen here because they see that it's overcast. And, rather than in Florida when, I mean, obviously you're going to wear sunscreen because you don't want to get burnt.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of skin cancer, surprisingly enough. So I got to see different types of these growths. And I was thinking back to, how interested I was after volunteering there. I would go home and study up more about, melanoma and just different types of cancer, pancreatic cancer, all these very, deadly issues that, they progress so rapidly, and it's so heartbreaking when they do. Particularly with skin cancer, because we all have weird things on our body and it looks like nothing a lot of the times. So to, be concerned about something, I mean, I totally understand when people come in and they have not, been concerned about their mole because it's always been there and it's not growing that fast or whatever. So I had that background knowledge, and looking at him from so close, I figured, just from being in that clinic, doctors, if they saw that, I really think that they would have taken it out already, or at least done a biopsy and checked to see what it was. And it was completely untouched just from looking at it. And so I figured there is a very high probability that this stranger, has no idea that this is either cancerous, or has no idea that he even has a mole there because it's on the back of his neck. And who checks the back of their neck, right? Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I also thought about, in conjunction, I am never going to have a chance to speak to this man in a way that would be ideal. I can't grab him in a private moment and talk to him and ask him what he's done, what he's looked into. And so I figured, what is the best, most efficient way to get his attention? Worst case scenario, he already knows about it. He's already gotten it checked out and it's nothing, or he ignores me, which is a very real possibility. Best case scenario, he gets it checked out and it's cancerous and he gets it removed. And I'm was thinking, for a long time, actually, the entire period, perhaps it's not my place. I went back and forth a lot with my mom and my dad. And even though they were sitting right next to me, they couldn't see the mole because his jacket would cover it back up. And so no one could affirm me or, tell me, yeah, go for it. Yeah, it totally looks like cancer,
No second opinion was coming here, is what you're saying.
No second opinion, yeah. But I just, in that moment, I knew I had to trust myself, and I knew what I saw. And I figured if that was my dad there, if that was me and a stranger had this knowledge, maybe go see a doctor, I would want someone to tell me.
Yeah.
And so that's what prompted me to finally type up that note on my phone. And I'm so lucky that, I was very conscious that I had to do this in a sensitive way. Yeah. So fate came together, and at the end of the period, all the players left. Everyone left except for Red. And he was grabbing an iPad, so he was kind of facing me a little bit. And so I held up my phone, I put in red letters, or the entire sentence was, the mole on the back of your neck is possibly cancerous. Please go see a doctor. And I put mole, doctor, cancerous in bright red bolded fonts. And
And you just held it up to him.
held it up to the plexiglass, and I knocked, and he kind of ignored me. Obviously, I'm in Kraken gear. He probably thinks I'm a heckler. And not to mention, there were two guys on the Kraken who were being extremely rude to the staff members and yelling at them throughout the game. So that was not easy to kind of, overcome for him, I'm sure, to listen to me. So I held up my glass, I knocked again, and like smiled and pointed to make it seem like I was friendly. He looked at it for one moment and just kind of shrugged, and he left. And after that, I kind of regretted it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I thought, oh gosh, he already knows about it. I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm sure it's an uncomfortable thing to have pointed out. And so I regretted it, and I told my mom, oh, that was embarrassing. And so that's the story. And
so your first reaction, Nadia, was, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That was actually your first reaction.
That was my first reaction. Yeah.
That's so fast. Yeah. So and we can make light of it now because we know how well it turned out. But picture him. He's seeing this person knock and hold up. So he either thinks, that's the worst introduction line ever, right? When you hold that up, or
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and he felt so bad. I'm not sure if you saw the press conference. He said he felt so bad for blowing me off, but I told him, I was like, if I was in your position and I was at work and some stranger dressed in the enemy's attire dropped a bomb like that. I mean, I wish I could have done it another way, but there was no other way to do it. I would have acted probably much worse. So he's an angel, and I'm so thankful that he even could remember what I said. And just, I mean, what a sweet and lovely man.
Nadia, you're so humble, and I can learn a lot from you when it comes to humility, for sure. Just in the way when we were chatting before I pressed record, and everything I've read and seen so far. It's funny though, what I meant to say with Brian, with Red, was imagine seeing that, and it's either that's a weird way to introduce yourself, or that's the worst chirp ever, right? Like
literally, yeah.
And we can say that now because we know what happened. Okay, so that's right. October 23rd. I think the Canucks won that game, unfortunately, right?
Yes, Canucks won. Yeah, I mean, good for them. I was cheering for both teams, and I still am. And I know that's kind of looked down upon, but I feel a unity. I feel very much a unity rather than a rivalry. Good.
You could be the one person who brings both franchises together. I think you have, actually. So 2 months go by, and what's happening in these 2 months before January 1st? Do you think about it a lot? Do you kind of wish you heard something, or do you forget about it? Walk me through those 2 months a little bit.
No, it never really left my mind. Me and my family actually talked about it a little bit more, and my dad, my stepdad, I call him my dad, he has freckles all over the place, and I would talk to him, and he said, I have a bunch of freckles and moles, and they're nothing. I'm sure it was nothing, and he knows about it. And, he was trying to comfort me in that way. And, me and my mom actually spoke to her best friend, Allison, and kind of told her what I did, because it was kind of a stark moment in the game, because I was so concerned for the whole period. Like, I couldn't relax and focus on the game because I saw that mole, and I was just racking my brain. And so she talked to her best friend, and then nothing. And then my mom's best friend, Allison, messaged her and said, look what the Kraken just posted. Is this Nadia? Is this what you were talking about? Wow. My mom freaks out. And I'm a crisis intervention specialist at a crisis hotline. Yeah. And so I was working New Year's Eve. I didn't get home until I think like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Oh, God bless you. Wow.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, thank you so much. And so I got home knocked out, woke up to a frantic call by my mom, and she just looks at me, or she doesn't look at me. She's on the phone with me, and she says, "Nadia, you have no idea what's going on right now." And I'm like, "What? Who's hurt?" And she said, "Go look on the Kraken Twitter." I go look, first thing that's pinned there is Red's statement.
Yes.
And I read it a couple of times, and I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way. There's no way that they're looking for me. There's no way that it really was what I thought it was. I mean, my breath was taken away. I started screaming, and I mean, I was screaming on the phone with my mom. We were both yelling, and she was like, "You knew it, you knew it." And I I mean, to have some sort of finality and conclusion to all of those months where I was thinking about this moment and what happened to this random guy, to know his name, to know that he has a family and so many people that care for him. I mean, and also to hear that the doctor said if he ignored this for 5 years, he wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was truly incredible. Yesterday was the best day of my life, easily.
Yeah.
And meeting him was really just the cherry on top of that entire day.
Yeah, and I want to get to that in a second, which is the story just gets better and better. So I'll say one thing first. I don't want to make this, I want to get back to you, but another reason why your story, Nadia, this story resonates so much is, and I mentioned this to your mother when I was trying to find you. I can say that. My wife, Gail, when she was 12 years old in the Philippines, she had 2 moles removed, both of them are her lower body, and they got it tested and they thought she had melanoma as well. So she went from the Philippines flew to the States for a second opinion. And that second opinion came back as no, it wasn't. I asked her how she decided which opinion to take, and she just said American doctor's probably better at the time. So, but it all, yeah, that's obviously she has the scars, and that's something that stuck with her. So it was another reason why I was so touched by the story. So thank you once again. And so you then wake up to this, and I guess by now that the Canucks first tweeted it, and then. And not only fans, so many fans retweeted it, but the national media guys retweeted, and the reach was just massive. And it's kind of, we talk about how bad and how toxic the internet can be, and especially something like Twitter. But this is obviously an example of when used well, used for good, it can do such good. And then it gets to Seattle, it gets to all types of social media, including the Facebook group that I think your mom was part of as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I keep saying that social media is so scary, but I mean, I've seen these manhunts on the other side of things, and to know that, to just go through my life and know that I was part of a manhunt, I was who they were looking for. I mean, it feels, you have no idea. Absolutely insane. Me and my family, we can't stop talking about it. And my mom is, I mean, she's been so active and helpful, and people have been reaching out to her. I don't have a Twitter, so she's kind of been the point person, and it's just been insane. And the fans, oh my goodness, the Kraken fans and the Canucks fans have been the most amazing people that I never in a million years would have spoken to or known who they are. They are, I mean, they're sharing these very personal stories, just like you just did, about their family members who have been impacted by cancer, or, their brother who died from skin cancer. And I mean, as someone going into the medical field, first of all, it means so much to me that people, have, been moved by a story like this, but that it's also raising awareness, and that people are saying, oh, I've been putting off this mole on my arm for, the past 3 years, and I'm actually going to go get it checked out now. And I just knowing that I may have been the catalyst to that is spectacular. And I truly don't know if I could have made a bigger impact than this. You know, I don't think I've made a bigger impact than this in my entire life. And to know that it was just this one moment that has started this, I'm so, so grateful. And like you said, it seems to be a unifier between the two teams.
Absolutely.
And, you know, just, I'm so moved. I'm so moved.
Oh, well, in texting you, I kept using the words awesome and amazing. You're probably like, Clay, come up with some new words. You use magnificent, spectacular. I'm running out of superlatives, but truly, true. So, and your mom's probably going to ask for a finder's fee if she's booking all these interviews for you. So
seriously, she's my manager now at this point.
I love it. I love it. So what's the time that your mom calls you? And then what's the time where you find out that, you're going to meet Red? Like what was walk me through that time gap there, or was it pretty quick?
Yeah, it was, I would say my mom called me around 11:30 in the morning, and I got a text from the Kraken's PR team that day, probably like an hour later.
Okay.
And I mean, they said, we want you to meet Red somehow. We're trying to work through the COVID protocols, whether you can meet him in person or on Zoom. But Red, seriously, I keep calling him an angel, but he really is. He did not have to do this. He did not have to say anything. And the fact that he said, no, I want to meet her. I want people to know who she is. I mean, that's so generous of him. And just meeting him and being able to shake his hand, give him a hug. And I got to speak to his family and send a selfie to his mom. I'm friends with his mom and sister, like on Facebook now. They have been talking about dinner, like my mom and their mom. I mean, we are so intertwined now in our family systems. And I just know that this is something special. And I mean, I'll remember him for the rest of my life. Easily. And
another beautiful part of the story, Nadia, is as humble as you are, and you are, Red's equally as humble. And the way he is, although it started with him, obviously, actually it started with you and it started with him, but he's trying to say, no, this isn't about me. This is about something that you did. He's calling you. So when you hear him use the term hero, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, it feels very weird. I mean, when I'm reading these stories, it feels like a movie. Like I'm reading it from an outside perspective, and like it's not actually happening to me. And all of these kind and beautiful and generous words that the fans are saying and Red is saying, I mean, truly, when I showed him that message, I did not expect anything to happen. And just the fact that, you know, people are taking that moment and they're, you know, just saying the kindest things to me, it means so much. And they really have no idea how much this has impacted me, just in my, you know, being affirmed that medicine is my calling and what I am, you know, meant to do in a sort of way. And people are saying she's going to be a wonderful doctor. And to hear that, it literally makes me emotional, because there's so much. I think a lot of pre-meds can understand that imposter bias is so real, and you can be the best student, but there's always someone better. And it feels like you're never good enough. You never have the best grades. You're never like, oh, you're volunteering, but have you done this much research? Have you done this much shadowing? And you always feel like you're a couple of steps behind everyone. And to hear people take this story, this moment that I had with Red, and just say these beautiful things to me, I mean, truly, it's impacted me. I will never forget them. And just the smallest tweets, I still remember them. And I mean, I'm sure I will take it for years to come, if not my entire life. Oh, for sure. And I love how you talked about that imposter bias, or I use the term comparison trap, whatever you want to do. Right.
It's so true, especially when you are in a very lucrative, competitive, very rewarding line of work. But wow. So, you know, the one thing, another thing that amazes me, Nadia, is the videos that we saw, both the Canucks and the Kraken, they shared the same video of you guys meeting. That wasn't edited. That wasn't cut. It was very natural. And you guys gave the warm hug and you entered into a pretty deep conversation right away. Tell me about that. Did it feel pretty natural when you met him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very, unique first meeting of anyone. We're brought together by somewhat of a beautiful tragedy in a way, this or not a tragedy, but somewhat. It was so scary for him and for his family, but also relieving. And the fact that we could jump in and immediately talk about our families and how they've been impacted and how it felt to be in that moment from both sides. I feel like he made me feel so comfortable and he went out of his way to do so. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And he, of course, when he told me about his partner and his daughter, who's 13, I have a 14-year-old sister. And hearing him say, in 5 years, I wouldn't have been there, and thinking, he wouldn't have seen his daughter go to college. That, and then also relating it back to my little sister. It's so, sad, but I feel so lucky that I was there at the right moment and the right time. And I know that this has brought us together. And just speaking to his family afterwards, of course, now that we're connected, it really feels like we're family at this point. I think he said in another interview that I'm family to him now. So it's very beautiful, and I can't be more thankful to him and his family.
Oh, it is beautiful, and I'll refer to this near the end. But as well as the Canucks are doing, and they're doing very well. They have all this new life under this new coach, but that as well as the Canucks are playing, as excited we are as Canucks fans, it's happily taking a backseat. The story about the importance of human connection, about relationships, about caring for one another, and I get I'm not even part of the story, and I get emotional when I'm talking about it. And I'm so grateful for this time. So a couple more. So now you're sitting there. The game is about to start. Before they acknowledge you at the game on the big screen and with the big announcement of the scholarship, did you have people coming up to you and recognizing you because of what they had seen on social media prior?
No, just staff, actually.
Okay.
Staff came up to me, and obviously they're the ones who are following all the Twitters, and they're very, if you're working in the hockey field, obviously what's going on in the hockey world. Right. And so, I had, I think like 3 or 4 staff members come up to me and say, "You're not the person from the articles, are you? And did they find you?" And of course, some people who already knew about it, they introduced me. They were so I felt like so out of place because they treated me and my boyfriend and my best friend like royalty. That's awesome. Seriously, they the CEO of the Kraken actually came up to me during dinner and he said, "Nadia, do I look like a man who cries? I teared up reading your story." And it was so powerful. And I got to see the skeleton of the Climate Pledge Arena. I got to walk out where the hockey players walk out. And I have all these pictures of me kind of freaking out, looking around. And I don't deserve this. And I still can't believe that happened yesterday. Truly, I'm so grateful. So grateful.
Did you know they were going to acknowledge you during the game?
They said that they were going to point a camera at me and that I should stand up and wave. Right. I had no idea that they had a full presentation. Red even said, he told me he didn't even know that they were going to acknowledge us in the game at all. So he didn't even know that the camera thing was happening. So let's talk about that, because that's obviously this is another part of the story too. Yeah. So was it during a first timeout in the first period? It was, I think, yes, I believe so.
So then and we've seen the video that many Seattle members and Seattle fans have shared. So they're telling the story on the big screen. And then at the very end, they give you they make the announcement that the two teams have combined to reward you or to help support you is a better way of putting it through your medical school with a gift of $10,000. So what was your first reaction when you heard, well, I think I know what you're going to say because I saw it, but what was your reaction when you heard that news?
Yeah, so first of all, when the announcement came on and they were telling the story, I stood up and everyone in my section stood up and was looking at me and cheering. And I was just, I wanted to cry right there. But then they kept going with the announcement. I saw red through the glass and we kind of made eye contact. And then they announced the scholarship money. And you can see in the video, it took me like 2 seconds to process it. And then I almost fell back on the floor. I like was reaching for stability and I could not believe it. They asked me before the game, like, what size jersey do you wear? And so I assumed, oh, maybe they're giving me a jersey, a signed jersey or something like that. I seriously, I was crying at my seat for like 10 to 15 minutes after that.
Wow.
They do not know how much that money means to me. And I've seen on Twitter and on Facebook, people are kind of upset that they didn't give more. But trust me, I am so blessed with this money. I mean, they didn't have to give me anything. And I was so happy to be there and happy to hear what happened. And this was just the unnecessary cherry on top, but I'm so grateful. This is life-changing money. And there was a point in my life where I really didn't think that I was going to be able to afford undergrad. This is life-changing money, truly. I know it's not a drop in the bucket for, how much med school costs, but it will make a difference. It has already made a difference. Mm-hmm. And I just can't thank the Kraken and the Canucks enough, and the staff members who worked behind the scenes to do that. And they all kept it secret from me. It was the most incredible thing to ever happen to me, easily by far.
And as a dual citizen, you know that 10,000 US is like 13,000 Canadian, so that's pretty
exactly.
good.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw a comment that was like, that's American dollars, right? And I was like, oh geez.
That is wonderful. Wow. So okay, so well, there's so many cool facets to the story, but I won't. I promise I wouldn't keep you all night. And you have all these big interviews you got to prepare for as well. So I want to say this: whether you work in ministry like I do, whether you're going to med school like you do, and you're going to literally be saving lives. This story, the reason why it's so important is it speaks to it's all. Whether you believe in destiny or believe in things happen for a reason, it's all these little chance encounters. You happen to see his mole. You happen to have the wherewithal to type something out. He happened to see it. He happened to take it seriously. And then the rest goes from there. When you look back at this, and I know it's so fresh, it just happened in the past couple of days. To you, Nadia, what's the most remarkable part of the story? Because it is a remarkable story. That's why... I know you're so humble. I know Red's so humble. That's why we love him here in Vancouver. But there's also a reason why the story is making national, international news. So for you, Nadia, what's the most remarkable part of this story for you?
I mean, first of all, I want to say that I knew it was international when my harabuji in Korea messaged me and he said, "Is this you?"
And explain to people what that is, so in case they don't know.
Oh yes, my grandpa in Korea messaged me, and I thought there's no way this made it all the way to Korea, and it was an article in Korean, and it's just so funny to me. So yeah, it blows my mind, but the most surprising part of the story is that, I mean, I almost talked myself out of it. And I cannot stress how close I was to not bringing it up. People have been commending me for being so confident and for, being courageous and doing this. And I mean, really, it was such a difficult decision to make because I know how uncomfortable that must, thinking what it must be like to get that message. I was so scared that it would hurt him or it wouldn't be the right time. And as someone who's very I took a lot of care in trying to make it as sensitive of a handoff as possible. But just, I want people to know that, it just takes a second to make up your decision and to trust your instincts, just trust yourself, and think about what you would want to hear. Think about how you would want someone to treat you, as cheesy as that sounds. And, your intentions matter. And I think that's what people are seeing here, is that they saw that, I just wanted him to go see a doctor, and people are very inspired by that. And I mean, really, it was so many very little decisions that came to me actually being in that moment, being in that seat and seeing him reach over in that one moment and his jacket falling for one moment. I mean, this almost wouldn't have happened, almost. So it's so rare that it did. And that's kind of what makes me think like, wow, a higher power is at work here. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm so grateful.
Well, you're talking my language now. Well, 22 words from a 22-year-old young woman. And I think it goes without saying, I'm sure people have brought this up to you. You are going to a field where you are going to have to make split-second decisions, where you're going to have to trust your instinct and really be confident in that you are making the right decisions at the right time. So, wow, what a story.
Right. Yeah. That's what, I mean, doctors have been reaching out to me and saying, in this field, you're going to trust instincts just like you did. People are going to say that you're wrong. And, as long, what you saw in that moment, and they keep telling me, that's going to benefit you a lot. And so I'm hoping that I can learn from this. And the next time when I'm in med school or residency and I have to make a big decision, and a difficult one at that I can do so sensitively and do so in appropriately, and, and just trust myself.
Wow. Yes. I'm flabbergasted. Do you mind if we wind up with a very quick back and forth, just five, I call it the 5-hole because it's a hockey thing, but just 5 quick questions. You can answer as long or as short as you want, and then we'll wrap up. Is that cool?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Cool. Okay. So these are going to be 5 unrelated to the story, and then we'll wrap up with the story. Perfect. What's one sport that you excel in? Oh,
I was actually a state winning diver for my high school.
Wow.
I think I forgot what year it was, but I won first place for state in my high school in diving.
Short, I don't know if they call it short and tall, but
yeah, off like a springboard, 1 meter diving.
Okay, 1 meter. Very cool. Yes, okay, that's
random.
Okay, no, I like it. Number 2, Japanese food or Chinese food?
Oh, wow. That one's hard. Oh, I have to go Japanese food. I'm so sorry. I mean,
no, don't. I'm with you.
Yeah. I will say I do eat Chinese food more.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more accessible, and there's so many good local restaurants in Seattle.
Yes.
But Japanese food is like my birthday meal. Like that's the special one. So Japanese food, but since I'm Korean food.
Well, and this, I knew we'd get along just fine. It's funny. I'm half Japanese, half Chinese. So Imo is a Japanese name. My late father's Japanese.
Yeah.
My mom's Chinese, but growing up in Vancouver, similar to Seattle, more Chinese people than Japanese people, more Chinese restaurants than Japanese. So I've always resonated more with my Japanese side, actually. Mm-hmm. So, and aren't the cultures of Japan and Korea quite similar in some ways too?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think we've drawn a lot on each other, and I mean everything from like the architecture to just drinking culture. I mean the littlest thing. I mean it's very, very similar.
Language and the way people, all those things. Right. Very good.
Fashion,
number three. Now, this might put you, it won't put you on the spot as much as number 4 will. Number 3, if you had, and this is more of a hockey related question, if you had to start a team from scratch, would you start with the forward, Elias Pettersson, or would you start with the defenseman, Quinn Hughes? If you had to pick only one.
Is this controversial to say Hughes?
Nope, not at all. In fact, more people that I've talked to, it's no, because I'm asking you to pick one. No, it's not controversial at all.
All right. Yeah, more people have said Hughes?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Canucks have never had a number one defenseman like him. They've had pretty good forwards like the Sedins and Kessler and Naslin, Bure, Linden. But yeah, most people do. It's close, but most people say Hughes.
Yeah, not to, betray my Kessler jersey, but yeah, let's go Hughes.
Okay, fair enough.
It's an old jersey.
Number 4, behind Seattle and Vancouver, I'm not going to make you rank those two. Do you have a third favorite NHL team?
The Black Knights.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually follow them quite closely, and we have a mat in our bathroom with their logo. And yeah, that's just who we follow. So
you like Seattle, Vancouver, and Vegas. Those are your 3 teams.
Yeah, there we go.
Very good. Very good. And finally, what's one thing that you love the world to know about you? Or at least a couple thousand people that I think will watch this.
Know about me? Oh my gosh. The thing about me is I feel like I am very unremarkable. And the fact that this story is happening to me is just, you have no idea how weird it is I go to work and I come home and I sit in my bed and that's all I do.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And instead of what I want people to know about me, I'll turn it back around and just say what I want people to take away from this is to check yourself, really. I mean, look closely, grab a mirror, look behind you. I mean, skin cancer, it can be in your hair, your scalp, your barber might find something. And, just pay attention to your loved ones. If you see something suspicious, don't be afraid to, obviously in a private way, bring it up. And healthcare access in America is very clearly not the best for financial reasons. I've struggled with that a lot as as someone who grew up in financial instability. There were a lot of times where I did not bring up injuries because I was afraid it would put my single mom into debt. And so just, if you can, ask, a nurse. It doesn't have to be a doctor, a PA, anyone who you have access to. Check yourselves out, advocate for your health, and you know your body the best. If you feel like something's wrong, seek a second opinion. And I think that from the story, we can all just pay a little closer attention to ourselves, and you don't have to be tough all the time. And I hope everyone stays healthy.
Well, Nadia, I want to thank you for taking the time, but more importantly, thank you for your leadership, your witness, your humility, your the way you're able to articulate yourself, and just your overall disposition and who you are. And I can tell that you're beautiful, you're smart, you are caring, you are generous, you're humble, and obviously
you're so sweet.
No, you're truly, you're gonna succeed in whatever you do. And it's more, as much as we joke, it's more than bringing 2 fan bases of 2 potential rival teams together. You've provided hope for people, you provided inspiration and encouragement. So thank you for not just this beautiful 45 minutes, but for seriously who you are and all you do. And we wish you the best of luck, and we can't wait to follow your story as you go, as long as you continue repping the proper team as you are right now.
Oh, right. Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I really hope that your fans are, kind of moved by this, and I'm so excited to support you. And, it's just such a strong message, and I hope that this can bring us a little closer during the really hard couple of years we've had.
Beautifully said. Thanks again, Nadia. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.